11 years. 11 years since the last Armored Core was released, and 15 years since Armored Core 4 Answer was released. Ever since I played the demo disc number 4, released in 1997, which featured Armored Core, I have been an absolute fan. I played every single main release and a few of the side titles. So when I booted up Armored Core 6 for the first time, along with a lot of emotions, a lot of opinions surfaced. Like many others, I found myself comparing this game to the old Armored Cores, and then I had to take a look back when I played Armored Core 5, a game that took a massive turn from its original formula, causing a massive divide amongst its player base. Some players never gave it a chance and they still hate it to this day. Armored Core 6 is exactly the same way, in that it's massively different from its predecessors. After years and years of creating Armored Core games in their successful Dark Souls and other Souls-like series, along with a whole new design team, FromSoft has created a new formula for Armored Core 6, one built for the modern gamer as well as the past. After finally completing the game, I wanted to start my review by saying this: Raven, we back. Now, the main question I had when this game was first announced was, is this just going to be a reskinned version of Dark Souls? And I'm glad to announce that it is far from it. This is a fast-paced, closer to fantasy mecha where you're going to one-shot most of your enemies with ease, and your only threats are other ACs and over-the-top bosses. Now, it does share some elements that Souls players will be familiar with that are brand new to the Armored Core formula. One is how boss fights are conducted. Past boss fights were just souped-up ACs or just giant target-rich mechs. Granted, they were very difficult in their own right back then. Now, Armored Core 6 does still have these, but now the real boss fights demand a little bit more respect, in that they can be a bit challenging at first as you figure out the puzzle. For another Souls-like element, and one that kind of threw me off guard, was the repair kits. But it's grown on me, and I honestly think it was a clever way of balancing PvE versus PvP. And it's limited to only 3, so that's not so bad. Speaking of bosses, this game introduces checkpoints and the ability to try again after a failed boss attempt, which is similar to Souls-like games. Most of the past Armored Cores were just so unforgiving in this feature, where if you failed, you paid costs for it in credits, and you had to restart a mission all the way from the start. Personally, I'm fine with this feature because if you want to sit down and focus on the boss, you can actually do that, rather than the entire mission as a whole every single time. With that said, overall, I'm satisfied with the final formula they've created for Armored Core 6. Now, I won't go over all the differences this game has compared to its predecessors, but I would like to point out a few changes that I found welcoming. The first was the world setting, mission design, and garage hub. Now let's compare these elements to Armored Core 4 Answer, which is actually considered by most to be the best Armored Core game. Now, you start the game in a tutorial, then you go to a menu with missions to choose from, then you choose your faction for your starting mech, and the garage, although extensive, didn't immerse you in the world quite like how this one does. Now, for the most part, it's still mainly just you destroying a lot of MTs with ease, fighting the occasional elite unit and Armored Core, and then maybe ending it off with a cool boss fight. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things I like about the game. The ultra-wide support, and the fact that it runs perfectly well on my old outdated graphic card. Yeah, my graphics card is just so outdated, but maybe with your support through YouTube, I'll be able to finally upgrade my PC one day. So with that said, be sure to smash those like and subscribe buttons. It's just like how the first boss smashed you on your first try. I'm just playing. I was actually talking about Katyushas. Now I'm going to combine my next point here: the controls, gameplay, and the fact that there aren't any game-breaking glitches. The controls are just super smooth, and it even fully supports mouse and keyboard, which is kind of crazy, which makes me think manual weapons like rockets, which kind of aren't in the game right now, would be crazy using a mouse. And even with my horrible GP, again, smash those like and subscribe buttons, I maintain 60 plus frames on an ultra-wide monitor, so great job on optimization here. Another main element I liked about this game is honestly the characters. Now, I'm saying this as a player who doesn't really analyze the story too much, and I've on occasion skipped some of the dialogue, but the voice acting was spot on. Perfect. One of my favorite characters in the game was actually Cinder and her several BM13 Katyushas. When I saw her in the arena, spoiler alert, it was just quite terrifying. And obviously, let's not forget everyone's bestie, Rusty. Even with the slight interactions with these characters and no faces, just their mechs, to me, these guys were memorable. And of course, I have to mention the level of customization here. Now, I'm not just referring to the parts, but the legendary emblem designer from Armored Core 5 makes its appearance here, and you're also able to add decals and weathering to your Armored Core. When it comes to difficulty, for me, I found the game both easy and hard. Due to my Armored Core experience, some of these bosses were actually really simple, like the first boss in Katyushas, while others took several to a dozen attempts to complete, like that final boss. The difficulty was a major discussion here, and that was actually to be expected since it is a FromSoft game after all. A lot of players when the game first released felt the game was absolutely too difficult, but once more and more videos surfaced on loadouts and strategy, all of a sudden the game became too easy. And that's just how modern gaming is nowadays, right? But with that said, if you want a true challenge and experience, stay clear of those videos and just go in, blind, and have fun with the game. This is the kind of game where you actually don't level up, but instead you gain access to more components. You're supposed to test out these components and find out what works best for you, what works best for a certain mission. Now with that said, I am going to have to admit that the tuning system feels like kind of like a soft level up system, and the parts you unlock are sometimes just way better than what you started with. But overall, you're just getting better as a player. And they kind of even tested that by throwing you into a junk mech, and you had to think outside the box for a second. During that mission, I really felt like an amazing AC pilot just in a crap mech, but I was still a threat. Now, I did enjoy the old Armored Cores, but I spent most of my time in the player versus player rooms. Armored Core 6 just gives you a lobby-based system where you just create a room for 1v1, 2v2, or 3v3 matches. So there's no rank system like Armored Core 5 was as of yet, and as a person who hit top ranks in old Armored Core games, I'm still not even mad at it. Chat is just reduced to a few messages, and it's kind of helps so players don't get too toxic. And when it comes to balance, you can tell some parts and some builds are just way better than others, especially in 1v1s. The devs are kind of focusing on PvE balance for now, before making any major changes to PvP. One thing to note is that the game is definitely PvE first and then PvP. Since you bring all your gear and stats from the main missions to PvP, you want to complete the game multiple times and unlock most of the parts before jumping in. I know something like that usually isn't really liked by a lot of players, especially if they're only interested in PvP, but the game is really short, guys, and actually the game is actually quite good, so just go ahead and go through it, get yourself leveled up, become a better player, go into the arenas inside of PvE, and then jump into PvP. It'll be actually worth your money that way. Now for my personal highlights, I'm just going to go over a couple things here. Now I'm a person who takes notice of the small things in the game, the extra bit of work that the devs put in where they really didn't need to in order to further immerse you into the game, such as the articulation of almost every single weapon. When they open up to release the missiles, all the animations showing when they're resetting or entering and leaving combat, and just look at all the weapons in the game. They did this for all of them. And of course, I already mentioned this earlier, the hanger they upgraded from their old menu style. Even just a hanger showcasing your weapons on the side once you're done assembling your craft. It shows like a preview animation of assembling being completed. It's just so satisfying to see your mech up close and personal after you spent hours in the assembly screen painting and customizing your unit. Alright, to finish things off here, overall this game was a great experience for me and well worth its price, and I'm excited to see the new features they will implement in the game in the future. And if you didn't know, I play other mecha based video games, and it's going to be hard trying to play other mecha titles right now with this one in my library, but we might have to take a break from it to try other things out. We'll see. So alright guys, it's time to rate the game. I'm going to use my old rating system here, and I'm going to give this game a glorious. If I were to use numbers, it'll be considered a 4 out of 5. I think this game has a lot of features that I do like, and there's some things I'm not really too sure about just yet. It's not a perfect game, but I am so glad it exists. If you liked Armored Core and you were on the fence about it, go ahead and pick this one up, guys. You're not going to be disappointed. Alright guys, thanks for checking out my video. This is my actual first in-depth review of a video game. I plan on doing more game reviews of other mecha titles in the future. Maybe not to this extent, but it depends on how well this video does. So with that said, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and turning on those notification bells and commenting below really helps out the channel, guys, since we are a small channel. Alright guys, let me know in the comments down below, what would you rate this game? 1 out of 5. Go ahead and put it down below and tell me what you liked about it and what you didn't like about it. Let's have a discussion. We're going to go ahead and end it there. I know life's been rough, guys, but keep your head up, keep moving forward, and most importantly, let nothing stop you. Peace out, guys. Alright, before you leave, go ahead and make sure to click on one of these videos right here for some more awesome gaming content. Or if you want some Gunplay content, check out these videos right here.